So here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. Giant Bomb, a journalistic podcast, if you even want to call it that, is apparently dead and gone, and it's back alive again. I really don't know exactly what's going on here. It's clear that Giant Bomb is having a little bit of an identity crisis, but has recently just bought itself back out. If you guys been following the very slow but also very melodic collapse of modern gaming journalism, then you kind of knew this was all coming. But the way that it happened, and more importantly what it means overall to the entire story, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the implosion of Giant Bomb and its sudden magical rebirth, apparently, and the awkward begging for money when they made fun of people who also asked for money for their own content, and what this ultimately tells us about the dying breed that is known as mainstream gaming journalism. This is going to be a lot of fun. So shout out to all of you over 87,200 people out there that are subscribed to the channel right now, and the almost 44% of you that are not subscribed. Consider hitting that subscribe button today. I would greatly appreciate it. So let's talk about the beginning. Let's talk about Giant Bomb and how all of this started. So Giant Bomb was, in fact, believe it or not, one of the most influential gaming podcasts there was on the internet, which was originally founded, I believe, in 2008 by Jeff Grub after his, infamous firing from GameSpot, which we won't get into too much in this video. But if you guys don't know about that situation, I highly implore that you check it out regarding Jeff Grub's firing from GameSpot. But Giant Bomb was a supposed rebellious and player focused in a way traditional outlets weren't. The idea behind it was that gamers were supposed to be talking to gamers, none of the PR stuff, none of the corporate nonsense, and for a long time it actually worked. But then you fast forward to the last few years and then the cracks obviously started to show. Giant Bomb was sold to CBS Interactive and then sold again to Red Ventures, and then finally landed again under the umbrella of Fandom, the supposed wiki empire that also gobbled up GameSpot and Metacritic. And what do you think ultimately ended up happening? Well, corporate mismanagement is a thing, mass layoffs was a thing, and talent exodus also became a thing towards the end. There was no ultimate vision for Giant Bomb anymore, and people felt like Giant Bomb stopped being like Giant Bomb. Then recently it all came crashing down. Fandom pulled the plug from the podcast, and the remaining cast, including Jeff Grub as well, either quit or were let go. The show as people knew it was over. Now here's the thing about Jeff Grub. A lot of people have issues with Jeff Grub because ultimately they feel like he steals stories. There was an issue between Smash JT and Grums where they broke a story regarding Corin Bush no longer working at BioWare. It was a massive story at the time, and Jeff Grub, after seeing Smash JT and Grubs break that story, decided a couple of hours later to take credit for that story, and then all of his mainstream media friends started referencing him as the source for that story when everybody knows that it came initially from Smash JT and Grums. And after that whole debacle happened, a lot of people had a bad taste in their mouth with Jeff Grub, but to be fair, they kind of already did anyway, because Jeff Grub also was the one that was publicly advocating for Alyssa Mercante, who was on their podcast at the time, to essentially fight people in real life and to fight them physically in real life. Yes, these were real life threats that she was making to people openly and was requesting to fight people on a public gaming podcast.
And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Which ended up resulting in, well, no fights because she backed out, right? Like Vera Dark offered to fight her, Mara offered to fight her, and ultimately she said, no, I'm not going to do it, and came up with any reason as to not actually do it. But that's besides the point. Who cares about that useless woman? Then we have the ultimate twist that nobody saw coming, or maybe you did see coming depending on who you are. Giant Bomb is apparently back in action, or at least the original voices behind it had announced that they have bought back the rights to the name Giant Bomb and are relaunching the show independently. I almost wonder how they managed to pool all this money together to purchase the name from Fandom, right? I gotta imagine that Fandom must not have let go of this podcast very easily, especially to people who worked on it prior who did not want to rebuild their brand. They did not want to rebuild their podcast. They did not want to start from scratch because they felt like they were the ones who made this podcast. podcast, even though the podcast was owned by anybody but them at the time. So Fandom must have sold it to them for a pretty penny, and I gotta imagine that they sold it to them knowing that they desperately wanted to buy it, which means you have all the negotiating power. But in any case, however way they managed to afford it, apparently they had more than enough money to buy Giant Bomb from Fandom, and now they are the owners of the product and they are hosting it independently, which is, I guess, good for them, right? But this is where things get a little bit weird, so I need you guys to understand who these people are. They made a public post basically saying the following, and I quote, "Here comes the part that you're probably expecting. We want your money. We need your money. Give us money." But for real, this is a big risk we're taking, and keeping Giant Bomb alive is going to rely on the support of the community. As an independent entity now, we can say that all support that we receive from you will go directly towards maintaining and growing Giant Bomb and paying the fine folks that you see on our programming week after week. Games media has changed dramatically since Giant Bomb launched in 2008, and our new model aims to evolve with the times. We want to be able to see our content, whether they're able to support us monetarily or not, so the large majority of what we put out will be available for free. That's how Fortnite works, right? The kids love Fortnite. Dan Reichert's skin coming soon. So this is where things get interesting to me, because for all intents and purposes, there is nothing wrong with what they're doing here. I want to make that very clear. There is nothing wrong as an independent content creator for trying to monetize your content. Zero wrong with it. But here's where things become a little bit muddy, right? So you are now deciding to enter the fray as an independent creator. Well, actually, let's correct the notion. You're actually not an independent creator. You guys are a multitude of different people that are working together to create a podcast. This is not all riding on one particular person's shoulders. You're all coming together to make this thing. But you basically made a public post begging people for money, which I don't know why you would do that, considering the kind of people that you are. You are the ones that would go out there and call people certain names, right? And I get it, man. Content creation is hard. It actually is work. As much as people want to say it's not, it is. But then the question has to be asked, right? Where was this understanding when they were part of the mainstream gaming press? Where was this understanding to other people who were independent content creators? For years, traditional game journalists have essentially mocked YouTubers, streamers, and independent content creators for monetizing their content. They would call them grifters, they would call them sellouts, or accuse them of pandering to the lowest common denominator. They would attack their own fans and basically claim that their fans are stupid for giving them money. But now, the moment they lose their corporate safety net, all of a sudden, they want to now talk about money and about apparently their independent funding and all this nonsense. Oh, now suddenly it's okay for you to ask for money. Now suddenly it's okay because you guys are considered worthy of that money. It's absolutely ridiculous. The hypocrisy is astounding, and it just goes to show that these people will have no set in morals whatsoever, because they'll in one day complain about YouTubers making money, and then the next day they'll join them because they have no other option. And of course, people are going to say, well, Giant Bomb always had subscriptions. Of course they did, but they also had the backing of a massive corporation like Fandom, so they very clearly didn't care about whether or not their subscriptions were maximized or not. The only people that cared was Fandom itself. Giant Bomb was getting paid salaries no matter what they did, so it really didn't matter. So this is the core of the hypocrisy in gaming journalism today. The very people who spent years looking down on creators for building relationships, accepting donations, even doing sponsorships, and supposedly begging for Patreon subs are now doing the exact same thing. It's the old guard desperately trying to wear the clothes of the new media world, and it looks ridiculous. Even they admit that they are trying to go with the change of the times. They said that in their statement. I'll put it up on the screen again so that you guys can read it, but they literally say that they are taking a big risk and they are going to have to rely on the support of the community, and they are changing dramatically with the time. Or in their worlds, they say our new model aims to evolve with the times. You know, they like to use that word evolve. So they are even admitting themselves that they are evolving with the times, and they're essentially jumping into the same pool that they made fun of not even just a couple of years ago or even a couple of months ago at this point. So gaming journalists that used to mock creators for clickbait are apparently now begging for your click. They mocked affiliate links, but they're now scrambling to try to get that affiliate revenue. They attacked YouTubers for daring to speak out without a PR-approved press badge, but now they're on YouTube themselves asking for super chats and praying that the algorithm gives them the viewership and people give them the money that they so desperately need. This isn't just hypocrisy, my friends. It's clear desperation, and it's obviously very telling. Now, the truth is that gaming journalism as we knew it is dying very fast, very very fast. The audience has clearly moved on a long time ago. People have completely stopped trusting journalists as a whole. It's gotten to a point where if a gaming journalist gives a video game a bad score, gamers immediately think it's a good video game, and vice versa. They don't want the half-baked articles written by interns anymore under a corporate quota. They don't trust outlets that review games under embargo while cozying up to those publishers trying to get that sweet access. People want authenticity. They want personalities, not just press releases. They want opinions, not corporate neutrality, and yeah, maybe even a little bit of drama, to be honest. But again, that's to be expected on the platform that is known as the internet. But guess what? The people who built their careers under the old system know that it's dying. That's why you're seeing more of them jump ship or go independent. Some of them do it willingly, some of them do it forcibly. In this case, they were forced to. They weren't going to change. You think Giant Bomb was going to change? Of course not. They loved working for a massive corporation because it gave them validity. Now they have to somehow figure out how to maintain that validity and do it on their own. Whether or not they succeed or not, well, that's up to them. So guess what? The people who built their careers, again, they know that it's dying. And now that's why Giant Bomb's resurrection isn't just a return to form. It's just quite simply survival at this point. They have no other options. But here's the twist. Going indie doesn't make them immune from criticism. It doesn't automatically make them heroes of the establishment either. If anything, it just makes them finally play the same game that they used to mock everybody else for being a part of. So what does the future look like ultimately? Well, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. Gaming journalism as a corporate institution is going to go extinct. It's only a matter of time. You got Fandom, IGN, GameSpot. These brands are fading relics. You even have Kotaku that I don't understand how they managed to survive. I think at this point, Kotaku surviving is simply based off the establishment putting all their money into that company in the hopes to keep it alive for as long as possible, because they know that once Kotaku goes down, gamers are going to consider that a massive win. At this point, it's going to be a massive win against gaming journalism. And I think when Kotaku dies, or when a company like IGN and Kotaku die, I think that is ultimately going to be the end of Gamergate as a whole. That saga overall of Gamergate will end when mainstream gaming journalism officially goes the way of the dodo bird. It is slowly happening little by little, and now it's starting to ramp up because obviously funding has become a lot harder to acquire. But when that happens, Gamergate, I think, will officially be over, at least the initial inception of it. The future lies within individual voices, smaller channels, bigger channels, niche communities. Whether it's on YouTube, Twitch, Substack, or podcast, it really doesn't matter. Independent creators are where the audience is going, and that is where they're probably going to end up staying. Giant Bomb, despite the mess, might actually be able to come together again if they understand that they're not journalists anymore. They're creators, they're entertainers, they're personalities, and if they're able to change with the times and actually bring entertainment to their fans, then perhaps you can actually get somewhere. But the truth is, you're playing by the same rules of the space that you once mocked. You made fun of it, you laughed at it, and now you're here down in the dirt with everybody else. So the question ultimately is, will they be able to survive without the credibility of the legacy that they once had? Or will they just become another nostalgia act that is basically cashing in on their former fame for as long as that can possibly happen? At the end of the day, time is going to tell. So ultimately, Giant Bomb's rebirth is more than just a podcast comeback. It is a sign of the times. The old guard is collapsing. The new world has been here for a while, and the rules, well, I mean, they've changed. You either adapt or you fade away into obscurity. That's the reality, and you have to face it whether you like it or not. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Special shout out to the Bigot Army members. If you are considering joining, hit that join button down below. Join the Bigot Army. I would greatly appreciate it. But if you cannot, that is perfectly fine. A simple like will be more than sufficient enough, and maybe even a share of this video, and get the conversation going. Do you think that what I said about gaming journalism is true or not? You could leave me a comment down below. I would greatly appreciate it. Shout out to the Bigot Army members again. Thank you so much for your insane support, for liking the video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.